and gentlemen. How to write names and formulas for binary ionic compounds. Okay, first thing we probably should do is define our terms. A binary ionic compound. Well, obviously an ionic compound means that it is a metal plus a nonmetal. The metals will always be positive ions, the nonmetals will always be negative ions. Binary means only two elements. Binary. Okay? So for example, Na, sodium, and O, oxygen. Two elements, binary. Now, before we get started, let's have a quick review of charges. All right, so here we go. Lithium, closest noble gas to lithium is helium. Lithium will lose one electron to have valence electrons that look like helium. Therefore, everything in group 1 will have a positive 1 charge. Keep going. Beryllium, closest noble gas. Helium loses 2 electrons, charge positive 2. Boron, closest noble gas. Helium loses 1, 2, 3, positive 3 charge. Now, switching over to, we're going to skip these guys here because they rarely form ions like this. So we're going to go to nitrogen, closest noble gas, neon, gains 1, 2, 3 electrons, charge on those guys, negative 3. Oxygen, closest noble gas, neon, gains 1, 2 electrons, closest noble gas, charge, negative 2. Fluorine, closest noble gas, neon, gains 1 electron, charge in that group, negative 1. The negatives are called anions, and the positives are called cations. And there we go. All right, so naming binary ionic compounds is incredibly simple. You simply name the first element, then you name the second element with an IDE ending. So, Na is sodium, O is oxygen, that is oxide, right? So you have to have the IDE ending, all right? So sodium oxide. Those are pretty simple. All right. The neutral charge method for writing ionic compounds. The key here is that all ionic formulas charges add to 0. Okay? So your positives and your negatives always cancel out. So first we're going to look at aluminum. That is clearly Al. Fluoride is F. So then we look at the charges. Aluminum is here in group 3A, so its charge is 3+. Fluoride is here in group 7A, so its charge is 1-, which we just write as a minus. So the basic idea is this. There's some number of aluminum and there's some number of fluoride that we're going to have, okay? So the question is simply this. How many aluminum plus 3 charges added to how many, well, let me make that look a little better than that, how many fluoride minus 1 charges equals 0. And we want the smallest numbers possible. Well, clearly 3 negative 1s will balance out 1 positive 3. All right, so I'm going to change colors here so it makes sense. 1 positive 3 and 3 negative 1s will give me a plus 3 and a negative 3, which is 0. Now we do not write the 1s in chemistry, so our final formula will be AlF3. Alright, so that right there, that is my subscript. Our subscript 3. Okay? And this right here, that's a superscript, right? That's always, the superscript always is used for charges, subscript for numbers of atoms. All right. Now, there is another way to do it, but you do have to be careful with it, okay? So easier just to show you than to tell you. Magnesium is in group 2, so therefore it's a positive 2. Oops, 2 plus. Oxygen, oxide, is in group 6, therefore it's a negative 2. Now, you can take that number and put it here, and take this number and put it there, and end up with something that will cross out. When you do that, you end up with Mg2O2. But you always have to have the lowest numbers possible. 2 and 2 can be reduced to MgO, right? Because you've got a plus 2 and a minus 2, and that's going to add to 0. So MgO is the final formula. Now, just for the purposes of explaining how that crossover method thing works again, let's just take a look at what that would be here. Okay? So if you were to use the crossover method here, you would have taken the 3 and you would have put it there. That's the 3. Then you would have taken the 1 and you would have put it there. That's the 1. And you would have ended up with AlF3. So it's basically is exactly the same thing. All right, folks. Well, there is how you do names and formulas for binary ionic compounds. It's time to do the practice and check in the Canvas quiz. That's what will generate the grade for this particular assignment.